will start my presentation with the definition of this term superstitio, which we can find in the Oxford Classical Dictionary, that the word superstition is relative, and I think that is relative, for it may be taken to mean indulgence in beliefs or practices which have been abandoned by general or at least by educated opinion of the time. It can be said that this term has complicated semantic history, and several ancient authors interpreted the concept of superstition positively. And it is believed that Theophrastus was the first one who designated this term as a negative in his characters. And he was also the first author who defined superstition as a kind of fear of the supernatural. Potter takes up that definition, that opinion, and with this author, the aspect of fear is in the foreground. I will not discuss now about the etymology of this word. Today, the superstition is not as widespread as it once was, but it still exists, especially among Bacons. We can say that superstition has changed its essence and role within the human community over time. And it appears in ancient times from the original ideas of people about nature, of natural phenomena that surrounded them. It is generally known that the Greek term δεισιδαιμονία, the Latin superstitio, had both a positive and negative meaning among ancient authors. One of them, who considered superstition as a negative phenomenon, was Quintilian. So, in our paper, we will explore some aspects of the use of this term in his work Institutio Oratoria. Perhaps the most interesting use of the term superstitio we can find in the third book of Quintilian Institutio, where he expresses his anti-Jewish attitude, considering the Jewish religion as superstition, Iudaica superstitio. Moreover, he refers to Cicero, who in his speech Pro Flacco characterizes the religion as barbarian superstition, barbara superstitio. And in this speech, delivered in 59 BC, Cicero's need to defend his client against, inter alia, the charge of embezzling gold destined for the temple in Jerusalem led him to dismiss Judaism as a mere superstitio, to present Jewish ancestral ways as the polar opposite of those of the Romans, and to caricature the Jews themselves as virtual barbarians. I should read only the English translation. As gold, under pretense of being given to the Jews, was accustomed every year to be exported out of Italy and all the provinces to Jerusalem, Flaccus issued an edict establishing a law that it should not be lawful for gold to be exported out of Asia. And how is there, judges, who cannot honestly praise the measure? The Senate had often decided, and when I was consul, it came to a most solemn resolution that gold ought not to be exported. But to resist this barbarous superstition, we can see it here, autem barbarae superstioni, were an act of dignity to despise the multitude of Jews, which at the time was most unruly in the assemblies in defense of the interests of the Republic, was an act of the greatest wisdom. Quintilianus considers the Jewish nation as pernitiosa. That means a nation which is pernicious for others. Pernitiosa ceteris gens. In this chapter Quintilian enumerates situations in which people can be praised or blamed. He thus states the successful children reflect the glory on their parents, cites on their founders, laws on the man who made them, etc. A few lines later, Quintilian deals with reverse situations. Among others, he imagines that men responsible for wrongdoings bring hatred on their own parents, and the pernicious nations cause their founders to be detested. For illustrating this last case, he quotes the example of the Jewish. The vices of the children bring hatred on their parents. Founders of cities are detested for concentrating a race which is scarce to others, as for example the founder of the Jewish superstition. We can see here that he didn't explicitly mention the name of Moses, just because Moses was well known among Quintilian audience. It's generally known that Quintilian's attack towards the Jewish nation has an historical background, and namely about 15 years prior, the Jews revolted against Rome and their laws. With his expression Iudaica Superstitio, Quintilian reveals his contempt for the Jewish religion, as well as for all others that he classifies as alien. With this statement, Quintilian wants to emphasize the will of the Jews to live aside from others and not to mix up with other people and their religions. And this expression, pernicious nation for others, implies that they were hostile to Rome and probably with no Jews in general. And this anti-Jewish tradition continued to expand during the beginning of the 2nd century AD, as you can see with Tacitus or Juvenal. According to this tradition, Jews are uncivilized men who refuse to follow Roman laws and also the most simple rules of hospitality towards fellow human beings, respecting Jewish laws only. We can say that Juvenal is unique among Roman writers of the early Roman Empire for the number and variety of his allusions to the Jews and Judaism. And I should discuss it in my written version because there are some different attitudes about the Juvenal statement about Jewish and Judaism. Behind Juvenal's remarks about Moses and the Mosaic law, we can detect the influence of Quintilian. Jewish social religious customs are a frequent theme of his satires, in which he draws in a satirical manner the street characters of Jews of early 2nd century. Behind Juvenal's irreverent remarks about Moses and the Mosaic law, we can detect the influence, as we said, of Quintilian. For example, we find the phrase "Coffinus faenumque, basket hay," a motif which Juvenal regularly uses in the context of Jewish basket and hay at Rome. Here, when Numa established his nighttime girlfriend, the grove and shrine of the sacred fount are rented out to the Jews, who are equipped with straw-lined baskets. Since the grove has been ordered to pay the nation rent, the muses have been ejected and the trees go begging. In the present part of the 5th book, Tacitus gives in his histories a broad description of Judea, its capital Jerusalem, and detailed analysis of its military political position at the beginning of Titus' siege of the city. According to some recent authors, this text is a good example of the fact that in Rome, from the end of the 1st century AD onwards, Jewish misanthropy had become commonplace in many Roman speeches dealing negatively with Jews. This is our opinions or statements of recent recent authors who discuss about it, and as I said, it's one complex, very complicated question. And I have another quotation about it on this topic. This worship, however, introduced, this is from Tacitus. This worship, however, introduced, is upheld by its antiquity. All the other customs which are at once perverse and disgusting, owe their straight to their very badness. The most degraded out of other races, scorning their national beliefs, brought to them their contributions and presents. This augmented the wealth of the Jews, as also did the fact that among themselves they are inflexibly honest and ever ready to show compassion, though they regard the rest of mankind with all the hatred of enemies. And the second one plays in Quintilian's Institutio, where he mentioned a term superstition, is in 12th book of his work, where he presents his view of a successful and valid orator, where he refers to Marcus Cato, expressing his statement that the orator is virtuous man who understands the art of speaking. Vir bonus. Here we can see that Quintilian has strong opinion that the speaker must first of all pay special attention to building his moral character, criticizing those who believe that virtue, which brings us closest of the immortal gods, is given by birth and is not acquired by our own efforts. So, one of the most important things for one moral and brave man is be cleansed of superstition. But can the man who does not know what abstinence is claim to be truly abstinent or brave if he has never purged his soul of the fears of pain, death, and superstition? And finally, the third place which I analyze in his Institutio Oratoria, in his 8th book of Institutio, where Quintilian discusses or writes about stylistic embarrassment, and when he discusses about the periergia, he clearly emphasizes that he makes a complete distinction between religion and superstition. He don't give an explanation, and so only we can see here that this line between religion and superstition is very strong. And this is a quotation. There is also a fault entitled periergia, which I may perhaps translate by superfluous elaboration, which differs from industry, and superstitio from religion. As a conclusion, if you want to analyze the term superstition or superstitio in Latin within Quintilian's work, we can conclude that in addition to semantic complexity, there is also complexity in the correct interpretation of the meaning of this term. A correct understanding of this term doesn't only require an analysis of its meaning by individual authors, but it also requires placing this term in certain cultural and historical context. As you can see in Quintilian's Institutio, there is ambiguity in its use, where this term has a cultural background when this author wants to disdain the Jews and their religion, or ethical one when he discusses about the moral qualities of a good orator. Thank you.
I would like to pose a question, and I don't know enough about Quintilian and this context, but I wanted to ask if you would agree with this, let's say, summary. Is this the case of, let's say, keeping of, how to phrase this? Is this a case in which author keeps the, let's say, descriptive part of the definition while shifting or transforming the value-laden part of the meaning of the term, if you know what? Yeah.
I think that he uses this term as one part of his argumentation, and that is he didn't discuss about the essence of superstitio, but it is a part of his argumentation. I mean that.
Yes, I guess that in those cases it's really easy to, let's say, somehow import values exactly in those cases when the one does not try to explicitly define the essence or give any kind of precise definition, but just use it implicitly and then go into,
deeply.
Yeah.
Just like a combination. And also it's interesting to see when you compare the different authors how they use this superstitio, and I think that we can better, with their remarks on superstitio, we can better understand not only the use but the essence and the transformation of the meaning of this term during the history.
Thank you. Oh, for sure.
Thank you very much. Just a very, very short question to understand it better from my part. So how many times does Quintilian use superstitio?
I don't know precisely, but not many.
Not many times. So maybe interesting to compare superstitio, religio, so which terms he uses and how frequently.
Because I said just that the superstitio is not his preoccupation.
He just
only
uses
the part
the
of
words
the
to talk about
yes.
other questions.
Yes.